Today I'm making a bioactive vivarium for my creepy leaf-tailed gecko using a leaf habitat. Man, nobody wants to watch this part. Ooh man, just look how sexy that printing is. I mean, look at that. And for my next step, I'll be laying down a piece of black foam board. I'll be laying down pieces of cork tube along it, and then I'll be using expanding foam to hold it down. And you see this gap right here, guys? I'm going to do something cool with it later in the video. Then after that, I grab a drill bit and drill a hole diagonal into one of the cork tubes, and then I put a skewer into it. And then after that, I grab this other really cool piece of looking cork bark branch, and I'm going to fill it up with a little bit of expanding foam, and then rest it on top of that skewer and just anchor it down with a little bit more foam. And I know it's kind of weird that I'm doing this on a foam board, but I'll explain later in the video why I'm doing it on here instead of inside the cage. And then once it's done curing out, I like to grab a knife and carve off all the smooth surfaces so then I can apply my media next to it. And how I'm going to apply my media is by using silicone, and then I sprinkle a mix of sand, organic potting soil, and orchid bark.
"24 hours later."
And for the next step, I'll be cutting these out along the foam board, and then I take off the lid, and then I grab a bunch of 1-inch screws, and I actually screw these in through the sides of the cage now. And the reason why I'm putting these on foam board this time is because like last time when I was putting foam on the actual cage itself, it started peeling off. So I realized that expanding foam doesn't stick to these leaf habitat cages. So this is my workaway around it. Would you look at that? But yeah, I'm really happy with the way how the background came out. This is my first time actually making the background outside of the cage, and it's just really nice to know that I can finally remove it if I need to. And plus, I really love the texture of the cork bark and all the sanding. It makes everything blend in just right. Then for my next step, I added some lecca clay pebbles for the drainage layer. I got it up to about 1 inch thick. Then I used weave fabric as a substrate barrier. Then I use my homemade terrarium substrate that consists of orchid bark, organic potting soil, sphagnum moss, and a little bit of washed place sand, and I like to get it up to about 4 inches thick. Then I grab some birchwood logs, I put them up to the cage, I mark them a couple inches shorter than the height of the cage, and then I grab a saw and cut off the excess. Then I'll be using Spanish moss and placing in various places throughout the enclosure, and I pin it down using some floral wire, as this will just add a really nice touch to the enclosure. I super glue the top of the birchwood logs, and then I place some more Spanish moss on top of it. Alright, it's time for the best part now, planting the vivarium. So my first plant I'm going to be using is a classic snake plant. This is always great for geckos. I'm going to be using this as a background plant. Be placed in the back and a little bit on the left side. Now this plant is called false Aria. I love the yellow edging on it and just the texture of it. I'm going to be placing right here in the front right. Then this cool little guy is called Bella palm plant. I'll be using it as a centerpiece and as a side piece. And this cool little plant is called Peacock Peperomia. I'm going to be using it as a foreground plant. And you guys remember that gap I left earlier? Well, I'm going to fill it up with some substrate and stick some pothos in there. Then I go outside and collect some leaf litter. What, bro? This stuff ain't cheap. Then I bake it in the oven at 250 degrees for about 15 minutes. This will get rid of any unwanted pests. Now it's time to deploy the cleanup crew. Springtails, and then my favorite, orange powder isopods. I just love these guys. I love the color of them, and they just breed super fast. Now it's time to reassemble the lid and the doors. Psych. now for my new occupant, my creepy leaf-tailed gecko. This is Trico, and he is the Mossy Leaf-tailed gecko, and I just love the Cork Bark look onto him. I mean, just like, look at that. There's really no other gecko like this. It's just so cool looking, and it's also just really creepy. I mean, just look at those eyes, for crying out loud. But yeah, I'm so excited now that he's in a leaf habitat. I've been wanting to move him into this forever now, and I think he's gonna be really happy in this enclosure. And for my light, I'm just using a Nicrew LED aquarium light that I got off of Amazon. And I really like this light. It grows my plants really well. It's nice and bright during the day. And what's really cool about it is that during the night, it has this feature where I can make it all midnight blue and adjust the brightness of it. And I really love this, so I can actually watch them during the night since these guys are nocturnal. And you know, there are like 9 different species of leaf-tailed geckos, and I have the satanic leaf-tailed gecko, which is everyone's favorite, but personally, the mossy leaf-tailed gecko is my absolute favorite. Alright guys, my name's Ryan, this is Trico, and you're watching Mighty Morphin Reptiles. Peace!